everybody, this is Julissa. Thank you so much everyone for coming back to my channel. Thank you so much to everybody who's listening right now in the podcast. Today is Saturday, August the 2nd, 2025. I needed to come here and share this with you guys, and this is very sensitive subject, so this will be your trigger warning. But I wanted to come here and speak about the situation that is happening to Christians, specifically in Nigeria, okay? And in June, about a month and a half ago, in June, there was a massacre over there. Over 200 people were killed, right? And the target is Christians, okay? So it's something that we should pay attention. I mean, everything that I share here, is to create awareness, not to make people live in fear, nothing like that, right? So we need to know what is happening. And just as the disciple asked, when will this thing happen, when they were asking about Jesus' second return, it's also important for us to kind of be aware of what's happening in the world, right? A lot of the times people don't want you to speak about news, and they don't want you to mention things that are happening in the world, but to me that's just ignorance, right? Because even if it's not affecting you personally or anybody you can always pray for people, right? And specifically when it's happening to our believers, right, our fellow believers. So let us think of the news something like this, right? And also to keep in mind that life can change at any moment, right? So before I continue, of course, I just wanted to give you the trigger warning that what I'm going to speak about is very sensitive, and some people might be sensitive just to hear the details. I always try to censor a lot of the details. But before I continue, thank you so much to everybody who has been following the podcast on Spotify. Don't forget to do so. Continue to follow the podcast on Spotify, excuse me. It really helps me as a creator, and everybody who's been following the podcast also on Apple Podcasts really helps me. I love seeing you guys watching from Apple Podcasts. Listening through Apple Podcasts, and of course everybody who's watching this video right now on YouTube. And if you haven't seen my YouTube channel, you can just search Julissa Designs Glory to God on YouTube, and you'll be able to see it there. Not only do I share the same thing that I post here on the podcast, but you also get to see the fashion side of why this is called Julissa Designs, right? You get to see like the two worlds, right, that I deal with basically. So you guys, we know that we're living in the last days. There's no like confusion about that. Everything that's happening in the world every single day. The economy grows a little bit, but there are closing stores, the people losing their jobs, things are just, anything can happen, right? But always remember, when you see things getting worse like that, and things not going this and the other, you always remember that, because we're living in the last day. That means that we're getting closer to be with Jesus. So always keep that in mind, because that's our reward, right? So these people, though, there was a massacre that happened. Let me read to you guys, because this is very sad, and it happened, I believe they were targeted, specifically Christians, right? And they were targeted inside the church. So villagers scrubbed streaks of blood from the walls of brick. I'm sorry, I'm gonna read this a different way. One moment, because I just got a little confused about that for a second there. Let me see if I can find something. It says here that this massacre left about 100 people dead. So last month, right, that's the one that I was talking to you guys about that happened before. Last month, dozens of attackers stormed the farming village of Yelbata in Benin State, Nigeria, killing at least 160 people armed with rifle and machetes and fuel. They struck as families slept, okay? So in the middle of the night, these families were targeted in this particular region of Nigeria, and they were, these people came armed, right? Rifles, machete, fuel, right? Just basically ready to take them down. Basically, it's so sad, you guys. The last thing that you want is, to be attacked, and then for this to happen while you're sleeping, right? It's so sad, you guys. So the assault, one of the deadliest in recent memory, sparked outrage from religious leaders and lawmakers around the world. The massacre unfolded in the country's volatile Middle Belt, where Christian farming communities like Gibraltar sit at the fault line of Nigeria's deepening farmer crisis. Once contained to local disputes resolved between communities, the violence has exploded into mass killing, fueled by population growth, the climate crisis, and the collapse of traditional peacemaking. And one of the people attacked by this, well, they were saying that they were burnt alive, right? It says here, well, let me read you exactly what he was trying to say. 45-year-old farmer, the Hemba, and I do apologize if I'm mispronouncing the name. He said 8 of his family members were killed that day. Most of them were burnt alive. That's what he was trying to say. So imagine the horror, you guys. Imagine witnessing something like this and be helpless, basically. Imagine being safe in your bed and then something like this happen as you're sleeping, and there's very little time for you to basically protect your family or yourself, right? And then 8 of his family were killed, and most of them were burned alive, said this man. They were hiding in the bedroom. His brother Lomba was shot dead as he tried to escape. It says here that 35-year-old Matthias had taken shelter in a nearby Catholic church during the attacks. When it was over, he went to search for his brother, 30-year-old Elijah. He found him covered in machete wounds. He was still breathing, so he rushed him to the hospital, but before they reached there, he gave up. Most of the suspects, according to police, are bandits or armed people, it says here. And the majority of them, they're saying right now that the majority of these attackers are Muslims, okay? Clashes between farmers and herders are rife in Nigeria and across Sahel region, expanding to west to eastern Africa. But decades of escalating tensions have grown more deadly according to the International Crisis Group. In many disputes, farmers accuse herders of grazing on their land and destroying the crops. Once settled through local mediation, this dispute have escalated into a major security threat as traditional systems of accountability were broken down. So, in Benue, close to 300 people have been killed since April this year, according to the local media. While almost 500,000 people have been displaced by the violence, according to the United Nations, most from farming communities, they have suffered massacre. 2 weeks before the attacks in Gibraltar, 2 elders were killed, according to the news. This is here. They were searching for a peaceful coexistence with the farmers, but wow, I didn't know the situation was this bad over there. My goodness. So basically, it's a situation for territory and also a targeted attack against Christians over there, right? Let me continue to read. As the attacks have mounted, so have claims of complicity by the government and security forces, accused of not doing enough. Survivors say police stationed there were quickly overwhelmed, okay? And that no reinforcement came even after hours of the gun violence. They say, quote unquote, the attack lasted over 3 hours. People are asking, why didn't the security forces come, right? The attacks have also raised complicated questions around the safety of Christians in northern and central Nigeria. In the aftermath of the killings, Nigerian Muslim President Bola Tinubu was criticized for failing to adequately acknowledge the attacks. He then promised to visit the region but failed to visit the village itself, blaming the state of the roads. So basically, washing his hands, right? Wow, this is so sad, you guys. And every time I hear something like this, not only do I think about the locals that live there, but regions like this are usually a lot of missionaries go to them, right? So, and they build, communities, and they build churches and things like this. So imagine finding yourself in the middle of this, right? It's so sad. We gotta always, every time you pray, always think about the people who live in this remote area, areas, and always pray for missionaries that leave their comfort of their home to go and share the gospel, to be the hands and feet of Jesus. That's always something that's so admirable, It's always something that you always have to pray about, right, for them. Let me see if I can give you more specific detail about the recent attack that happened, because I know there was something, I believe it was 49 people that this just recently happened, and I just want to give you specific details about that. So because of this, right, because of the situation over there in Nigeria, so now the people are protesting, right? Like I just read to you, people were protesting how come this, the attack lasted 3 hours and the police were basically overwhelmed very quickly. How come the government didn't send additional help? How come the president or the government didn't come to visit the area to see what's going on, to see the fight between the farmers and how the Christians are being targeted, right? And because of that, because of the lack of help, and this continues on, people are out on the street protesting this, right? And it says here that they're blocking highways to protect what's happening over there with the Christians being killed in June. So it says here, hundreds of displaced Nigerians block a major highway this week to protest the government inaction after the mass killing of more than 200 Christians in a massacre last month. The demonstrators, mostly women and children, demanded food and security at a camp near Makurdi in central Nigeria, chanting, quote unquote, "We want to go back home, no security, no food." The protesters used 3 branches to barricade a expressway, halting traffic at the junction over there. The demonstration came one day after Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu visited Benue State and announced a donation of 1 billion naira, $653,000. So they're doing something. I just realized that here, that at least the First Lady was able to at least visit the area. One of the areas where the attacks happened, and they're already designating funds to help the people over there. So at least that's something positive, right? This massacre the one I told you about that happened in June, happened June 13th to the 14th in the Guma County, in that county they forced thousands of people from their home, and over 200 Christian villagers were dead. This is a specific attack against Christians, right? So, wow, it's so sad, you guys. It says here, while protesters accused both the state and the federal authorities of abandonment, the Benue State Emergency Management Agency denied neglect. The spokesperson said the protest was politically motivated. Local leaders remain critical, saying that the community remained critical of the security forces. And the Nigerian federal government had earlier stated that the June massacre will be a turning point of security operations in the region. However, residents saying that the violence has continued. So basically, you know, I think the protest is mostly what they experienced, what they saw happen, and how they didn't send enough help, right? And you know, that's why they're protesting. That's why now the first lady had gone now and has designated funds to help them, right? So this is why it initiated. But they're also saying we don't feel safe here. So, you know, it's so sad everything that happened there, guys, and that's something that we need to pay attention. Because you know, they made it seem, you know, when I read to you guys earlier that it was about territory with the farmers, right? And now it seems like it's a specific target attack against Christians. So let me know, guys, what you think about this, and we'll pray for them. We'll pray for their safety. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming to the channel. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Have a good day, everybody. God bless. Everybody, this is Julissa. Thank you so much for coming to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video. Have a good day, everybody. God bless.